All right, South Africa, it's 7 minutes after 1. It has just gone lunchtime here in Hyde Park in Johannesburg. This is All Angles here on eNCA. A very good afternoon and a warm welcome if you have just joined us. My name is William Lahong. It's that time of the day when we give you an update on how far some of these stories that we have been following for you today have advanced. In fact, this is your lunchtime update. Right now, we check in with our reporters covering some of the top stories today. Pule Letshwiti-Jones, Bafedile, Moerane, and Nobesuthu, Hejana. Pule, let me start with you. I mean, you are in Tshwane at the moment where Mayor Cilius Brink says it's not business as usual as the wage hike standoff continues.
Yeah, definitely, it's not looking quite good for the South African Municipal Workers Union, as we understand that the city of Tshwane has received correspondence from National Treasury as to what it should do next if it wants to implement the salary increment backdating as far as 2020 for the workers. The model, of course, includes 3 critical issues it has highlighted, which speak to reducing its operational expenditure by 25%, increasing its revenue collection by 95%, and to reduce the number of contracted services in the city of Tshwane. Once this model has proven to stabilize the finances of the city, only then can the Metro embark on a process of implementing the salary increment for the workers in the next financial year. Now, I say to you, it's not looking good, because if you can see behind me, these are some of the workers, William, that of course have been dismissed here in the city of Tshwane. About 93 of them received those dismissal letters last week. But what I can tell you as well is that this particular strike, which the city says is unprotected, has had an immense bearing on the public infrastructure and, of course, contractors as well. This is according to the mayor, and we also understand that the mayor has been quite concerned around some of the workers who are not participating in the strike being targeted by the disgruntled some workers, one of which we're told was shot while on duty just a few days ago. And the mayor says, honestly, this is unacceptable. They will be continuing to speak to the union as to how they should reprimand their workers and officially tell them to come to work to avoid any further loss of lives. Let's just take a listen to what he had to say about how bad this strike has been and how it's really costing the city.
Unfortunately, it's not a business as usual, because if you go further afield, if you go especially into townships, you see power outages, water leaks, sewage leaks that haven't been repaired for days on end, waste not being collected. And the fact is that the majority of our workers aren't participating in the strike, but those who are causing critical delays. And there's also been instances of violence, intimidation, and criminality. At the weekend, one of our water team members was attacked by a group of people who had earlier warned him not to work. They told him, listen, there's a strike, you're not meant to work. And then the same group of people followed him to a family member's house. He was shot, he was hijacked, he was left for dead. I visited him in hospital yesterday. He confirmed this to me. And I really hope that this event is a turning point, and that the leadership of SAMU thinks carefully of their next moves so that this isn't escalated, that we don't, in fact, see the loss of human life.
Now, Bafedile, you are following this story. A traditional chief and vendor is being accused of stalling the Giyani bulk water project. In fact, Chililo Ramoba allegedly sent armed men to stop work after government refused to pay him 20 million rand. The department allegedly paying him half the money.
Well, that's what we are gathering on the ground here, William, when we speak to some of the contractors earlier on today, having to say that the project that was launched back in 2016 and expected to be ended by 2018 has faced a serious challenge. And we know that this project, it doesn't come here. Remember, this is that 4.5 billion project that was launched by the former president, Jacob Zuma. And just about 8 months ago, we saw the President of the Republic, Cyril Ramaphosa, accompanied by the Minister of Water and Sanitation, Senzo Mchunu, having to come to this area and telling the people of Giyani that the project will definitely come to an end and they will definitely get water. But it's a dire state of affairs on the ground here. The communities are really suffering when it comes to water provision. Now having to hear that the chief here has stalled the project, as he is claiming that the land belongs to him and he is demanding some funds or ransom from government as part of paying his land, saying that the community of Giyani cannot get or cannot source water from his land. So we spoke to one of the contractors earlier on who is very much not happy about the chief's conduct, and this is what he had to say to us earlier on, William. We hear and understand that this land belongs to the chief.
Yes, it is true. It belongs to the chief. That's the one who actually gave us issues not to work here.
What kind of issues? What is he saying?
He says we're not supposed to take water from his dam to take it to Giyani.
So now, at this point, how is the situation? Is everything fine according to you?
I cannot say it's fine because last week he came and stopped us until we've been told to come back the following day. That's what we did.
That's Bafedile live to us from Venda this afternoon. Let's go to Cape Town now, where we find Nobesuthu. The city has this past weekend impounded 14 more taxis. This is despite a deal that was struck between the city and SANTACO. In fact, the taxi association itself has since expressed disappointment.
Certainly, William, you would remember on Wednesday, SANTACO held a media briefing last week to inform the media that it was going to apply for an urgent interdict where the city of Cape Town had initially said that for every truck or any other vehicle that would be torched or attacked, they will be impounding about 25 minibus taxis. So on Wednesday, SANTACO telling the media that they would be approaching the courts to interdict the city of Cape Town, as they were planning to meet with the city for the following day, where they will be discussing the possibilities of resuming their operations. And on Friday, there was that joint meeting or briefing between the city, the province, as well as SANTACO, where they announced that the strike had been called off. Now, SANTACO says upon their agreement, there was an agreement that the city would not be impounding vehicles, and only vehicles that will be impounded would be for offences that are on the NLT. And SANTACO now saying that vehicles that were impounded over the weekend, those offences do not warrant an impoundment, and on making an example of two incidences where a vehicle was impounded for having overload as well as passengers not putting on their safety belts in the vehicle. SANTACO saying that those do not warrant an impoundment. And according to the agreements, vehicles that will be impounded based on 3 offences, which include operating a vehicle without a license or a PDP, as well as operating an unlicensed or rather unroadworthy vehicle. But we do know that SANTACO is not putting the plans of approaching the courts to rest. In fact, they indicated this morning that they would still be approaching the courts, but they do not want to share much information on that, and also saying that they are not 100% that a stairway would not be on the tables, as those negotiations between the province, the city, are still ongoing. But we know that today they are not part of that task team that was meant to resume to discuss what could be referred to as minor offences, as well as what would warrant for a major offence. But this is what Mr. eNCA had to say about how they were surprised by those impoundments that took place over the weekend.
14 of our vehicles were impounded this weekend, some on Saturday, some on Sunday. But we get information from the operators that they were wrongly impounded because one of the vehicle was impounded due to the fact that the driver did not have a driver's license, of which that is not an impoundable offense. One of the vans was overloaded, and that as well is not an impoundable offense, and it's what we already agreed to, that such offenses will not warrant any impoundment. So it really surprised us.
Bafedile, Pule and Nobesuthu, thank you guys so much for this lunchtime update. Of course, we will touch base with you throughout the course of the day.